We are going to dive into a 12-man full PPR mock draft on today's episode of the Fantasy Football Fellas podcast. I am drafting from the 103, Tyler from the 107, and Cameron from the 111. We are all spread out. So, fellas, let's dive on in and kick off this draft, starting with...
That's on me.
Oh my! Happy birthday to you, Lucas.
Happy birthday to
you. CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson at the 101 and the 102. Now, how likely is this scenario that your teammates pass up on a Christian McCaffrey dealing with a calf injury, but then also Tyreek Hill? I could see this being CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill. Is there any world where you think Jefferson actually climbs up to the 102?
I think Darnold played well enough that I think, some people are like, oh, if Darnold can be, as good as he was, we saw Jefferson score 20 plus fantasy points with the mess of quarterbacks they had last year. Yeah, I think Jefferson's worthy of the conversation. Would I take him to the 102? Probably not, but I do think he's worthy of the conversation. So I don't think it's that outlandish to see him go 102.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will just be like, oh, it's Sam Darnold. Like, there's no way I'm doing that. But again, there was backup quarterback play last year that did not affect Jefferson at all. So yeah, he needs to be more in the conversation. I don't think any of us would say that he should be, but there's at least a conversation there.
Yeah, and even if it isn't CeeDee Lamb 101, I wouldn't be surprised if it's Tyreek Hill. It's like, great, I don't have to deal with the injury. I don't have to deal with the contract disputes. I just get a guarantee. And then if Jefferson slides in there, I honestly don't think that's impossible. But in my case, I'm at the 103. Again, I'm just choosing not to overthink Christian McCaffrey this year. Now, could that come back and bite me in the butt based on the last 5 running backs who have led the league in touches and how they've regressed in the following year? Yeah, it could. But Christian McCaffrey has also said if it were regular season games, he'd be out on the field right now with his calf injury. He's just being uber precautious. He doesn't have to be out there. And frankly, I think it's better that he's probably sitting before the start of the season. But with how good this 49ers offense is, if Brandon Ayuk gets traded, they are going to have to rely on Christian McCaffrey. I'm just letting CMC be the outlier because that's quite literally what he's been his entire career. Tyreek Hill goes at the 104, followed by Bijan Robinson, Breece Hall, who I do think you're probably going to see this quite a bit in your home leagues. You're going to see Bijan and Breece go in the top 6. So, Ty, it's to you with the top 3 wide receivers, the top 3 running backs off the board. Who are you going with?
I was really hoping I was going to get one of these running backs because this decision between the 2 best receivers available between Jamar Chase and Amon-Ra St. Brown is a pretty fascinating discussion because we are, a year removed from Jamar Chase really being one of the most valuable pieces just because last year in Cincinnati was a disaster for everybody. But then you got a guy in Amon-Ra St. Brown that may not give you the same week-to-week ceiling that Jamar Chase can, but he's going to be the most consistent. He's going to give you the safest floor. So it's really a matter of, do I want just more points on a given week or do I want the consistency? This time, I'm just going to lean consistency. I don't have a problem with Jamar Chase this time with this build in this mock draft. I'm just going to try and start with consistency.
I feel like Amon-Ra isn't going to lose you your league. The fear with Jamar Chase is that Joe Burrow's wrist doesn't get better this year and he flops you in your first round pick, and not to the point where he flat out loses you your league. But you're right. I think Amon-Ra is a safer pick there, and he's the one I find myself drafting more often than Jamar Chase. AJ Brown, Jamar Chase, then followed by Garrett Wilson as well. So Cameron, the 111. You could take a Puka Nacua here to wrap out the big name wide receivers, but obviously still dealing with that knee injury. We saw Sean McVay kind of downplay Cooper Kupp's hamstring injury last year. That lingered into the season. Do you have concerns about that? Or are you just looking a totally different route completely?
Yeah, so Puka has been pushed on the board quite a bit. So he's a guy I would maybe be interested in here. But obviously, the injury concerns just a little bit, right? The difference too between him and Kupp is, Kupp was 29 going on 30. Puka Nacua is not even 24 yet. So right there, they're at a different stage of their career. It sounds like Puka's going to be fine. So he's a guy I'm going to kind of try and wait on, see if he'll fall. Which means for me, I want to start running back then. And it's Gibbs, Taylor, and Barkley. And really, I do want to take Gibbs. But a running back dealing with a ham, like, and two, it's like Puka Nacua is kind of like, I think it was like a bruise or something like that in his knee, right? It wasn't anything structural. Wasn't like a muscle.
Ruptured fluid sac in his
So there you
knee,
go.
but there was concern around a potential knee sprain.
Okay. So, I mean, maybe I'm wrong. But Gibbs with the hamstring worries me just enough that I'm going to give the edge to Jonathan Taylor here, and I am going to go Jonathan Taylor. Usually, I think I'm usually 50-50 anyways between the two. Well, now Gibbs is still there, so that still makes my decision hard. I was really hoping he
Marvin
was
Harrison Jr., Marvin Williams went around the turn there.
Yeah, so now it really comes down to Gibbs or Nacua for me, because I think both will be fine. It just is, something in the back of your head, and when you're taking your first overall pick, like we've said it so many times, Lucas literally just said it, like you don't want your first pick to lose your draft, right? If you take one of those two guys and they have an injury lingering for the first 5 weeks, right, that can just ruin your team. But with that being said, I am going to go with Puka Nacua because I do like a 1 wide receiver, 1 running back start. And I do think he's going to be fine for the start of the season.
Yeah, and could that sink you potentially? But it's typically not a decision I want to make where it's like, well, I'm just not going to take him because he's injured right now, when everything that's been fed to me has been said he should be ready. And we saw, even the back half of last season, Kupp was a top 10 wide receiver. Obviously, it wasn't anticipated when you drafted Cooper Kupp in the first round in the first round last year, that Puka Nacua was going to be this absolute breakout star. But this Rams offense can feed both of these guys. I don't think the potential is that you miss out on 2-3 weeks of Puka Nacua if it does linger into the season, and then towards the back half of the season, you still get a top 10 guy. Like, that's how I'm looking at it with Puka Nacua. So yeah. I still think he's worthy of a second round pick. And I think at the 202, that is more than fine. Jahmyr Gibbs did go next, followed by Saquon Barkley and Devontae Adams. So Ty, back to you again. We're looking at the board right now, and it's really the big name running backs and the big name wide receivers are gone. And I hate saying that the second round feels gross at this point, but it doesn't feel like a lot of the guys in this range are worthy of your second round pick when you're drafting from the middle.
No, I was really hoping for one of the 3 running backs that went before me to fall, because that would be a smash pick for me. But I mean, like you said, like I'm looking at Drake London. We haven't seen it from the guy. Yes, the situation around him has gotten better, but we just haven't seen it from the guy, right? So there is some risk there that maybe just things don't come to full fruition this year. Then you've got Travis Etienne. Was last year a bit of an outlier? Like, was, not to say that like he had a Josh Jacobs type year where like Josh Jacobs was the top overall rusher in the league, but like last year was a pretty high year for Travis Etienne. Can he really get better than that? But then I'm looking at Sam Laporta, Chris Olave, Josh Allen, Travis Kelce, and I'm like, I'm not taking any of those guys either, right? So honestly, like this is just gonna have to be the guy that I've got ranked the highest out of everyone that's available, and it is Travis Etienne. I'm not super thrilled with the pick because, again, like I think Etienne could hit a bit of regression this year, but because I just don't really like anyone else, kind of by process of elimination, I'm just going with the guy that I've just got ranked ahead of everyone else.
I do think it feels gross too when you've played a lot of best ball looking in a second, because you're not used to the running backs being there, right? Like in my head, I'm always thinking, oh, Travis Etienne's like a 4th round pick, but in your redraft league, he's not. He's a middle of the 2nd round pick, which kind of feels more appropriately priced from where he finished last year and then kind of what happened this offseason for him. So I think Etienne's a great pick. It's just sometimes in my head, I'm like, it's not the right, in best ball, I can get him so much later. But in this situation, I do think he's a good pick here.
I completely agree. He was followed up by Drake London, Sam Laporta, Chris Olave, then, which stung because I wanted Chris Olave to slide to me there because I'm looking at the wide receivers. I really want to start reaching on wide receivers here because I would rather have a Deebo Samuel than a Mike Evans, a Deebo Samuel rather than a Brandon Ayuk. I would rather have like a Jalen Waddle than most of these other guys on the board. And what stinks about all of it is that I have Christian McCaffrey too, so I don't really want to double up on Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey.
Mm-hmm.
I think they can both coexist, but that just doesn't feel wise.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do, I'm really debating if I want to go another running back here, if I want to go a Devon Achane and just double hero RB this sucker, and we'll figure it out later. I don't know what it's going to look like to figure it out later, but also I'm pretty sure I can get better values in the later rounds on some wide receivers that I don't mind taking shots on, but I can't force myself to do that. I can't shortsuit myself, that heavy on wide receivers. So I'm going to take Nico Collins here because he's higher up on the board. I like his upside in this Houston offense. And I'm just going to take him there because I need a wide receiver as Josh Jacobs, Mike Evans, Travis Kelce, Derrick Henry go. And this is where I am going to take Jalen Waddle then. I just think he's in for a bounce back season. And again, I know I can take a Devon Achane there, but I'm going to hate how this build looks if I go double running back with Christian McCaffrey right away, because those wide receivers I'm going to be looking at later, I don't know if I can force myself into it. So it's really, really tough to pass up, on a Devon Achane at the 210, at the 3-3 with Christian McCaffrey, but I'm going to trust my gut and say that I can grab another running back later that I still like while also loading up on wide receivers early still. So that's how I'm going to cancel out the deficit at wide receiver. I'm just going to take two guys I believe in coming back this year. Devon Achane, Josh Allen, Brandon Ayuk off the board. So Ty, it's to you. Which direction are you looking to go after splitting your start between wide receiver and running back?
I feel like the smart pick is to go receiver here.
His heart's telling him something else.
Dude, I'm telling you. My heart is just fluttering right now because I'm like, golly, my guy is just sitting right there.
He goes two running back start last week. Now he's looking maybe 2 in the first 3 this week.
And I'm gonna do it, man. Dude, I can't.
Yes!
I can't help it when I know that he is going as high as the late second in drafts, and I'm getting him in the middle of the third. Yes, the ETN pick may not be the best pick in terms of the build that I will have at the end of this. But the fact is, like, if ETN does regress a little bit, I've got some cover that with Pacheco then as well. So I was fully prepared to go wide receiver, and then I was like, oh, wait a second. Since Lucas went Waddle, like, I think I've got a shot, and it actually worked out. So I'm very, very happy with Pacheco in the third round. Holy smokes!
he's like over the moon.
I'm so happy. I've waited
third
so
date with
long.
Isaiah Pacheco, and he's like falling in love. Like Ty's giddy about this.
I will say,
buy the engagement ring yet, pal?
Yeah. Ty did say last week that he was worried about going 2 running back start, and we had the biggest blowout in our mock draft in like the history of us doing mock draft. Ty doubled my vote count on social media. I mean, people were talking about how awful my team was compared to it. So I will say he can make it work. I've seen him do it. I saw him do it last week. Let's just hope that he doesn't ruin your birthday with another schmack.
Well, I was going to say at this point, after my start, I'm not too confident that I'm going to win. But I will say, I think if you do draft an Amon-Ra in the first round, I actually don't hate the double running back strategy right away after that. Because you've got the position anchored, then you've got consistency in Amon-Ra. You're not like, well, what if something does happen to Jamar Chase? Or I just don't feel as confident with AJ Brown as like my solo stud. Like, Amon-Ra is going to give you probably somewhere between 14 to 18 points every single week. You can go out and just swing at running backs then. So I actually kind of like that strategy where Amon-Ra isn't the highest upside pick in the world, but you could totally anchor down running back and shoot upside later with wide receivers. So I actually really like that type. Deebo Samuel, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson next off the board. So Cameron, to you split Jonathan Taylor, Puka Nacua in the first 2 rounds. Where are you going next?
I gotta be honest. I don't always put a lot of stock in preseason, but I saw one guy make a couple throws this last weekend that were pretty nuts, and that was Mr. Caleb Williams, and it's got me all in. all in on his wide receiver one, DJ Moore. I mean, I'm hot and bothered now thinking of what's going to happen this year with DJ Moore. I mean, 1,300 yards and 8 tutties last year, and now you got Caleb Williams. Oh, I'm just saying it could be pretty miraculous out there. So I'm going to take DJ Moore here. And I, I'm not going to think twice about it. Now the second pick is interesting because typically my guy here is Ben Cooper Kupp, but I don't want to double down on Rams wide receivers, mainly because then I'm fully reliant on Matthew Stafford staying healthy. That's what it comes down to for me. I think they could both really coexist together and play really well together. I'm just worried about having Matthew Stafford as the quarterback that I'm relying on for my, two of my top 4 players on my team. Malik Neighbors is there. I'm rising on him a little bit, like Ty talked about after watching him. DK Metcalf's there, but we've talked about it all the time. I hate the builds when I don't have an elite tight end. I just do. I feel so much better when I got one of these top 6 guys, and I just don't see. I'm just worried that I'm not going to get one to fall back to me. I'm not projected to according to Sleeper, so I'm not going to risk it here. I'm going to take Trey McBride. I have him slightly ranked lower than Mark Andrews, but I like the upside a little bit more because I think he's in an offense that's more conducive for passing volume. So I'm going to take Trey McBride there.
I think we can stop the vote. Well, stop the vote. Ty's going to win this draft. This isn't fair anymore. As Stephon Diggs, Rashad White, Cooper Kupp go afterwards. Ty, you can go ahead and take DK Metcalf right now. Stop the count.
Thanks, bro.
Stop the count. Stop the count.
I was getting prepared. I was preparing myself that DK Metcalf, Cooper Kupp, Malik Neighbors were all going to go in the next 3 picks, and I was like, cool. I'll fall back on Mark Andrews then. But golly, getting DK Metcalf as my wide receiver 2 with the consistency with the consistency that I'm getting with Amon-Ra St. Brown, I can take a guy like DK Metcalf and still feel okay because I know that he's going to have some serious upside week to week this year as well. So, gosh, what a start! Happy birthday, Lucas.
So, can I ask you something real quick? Just because I know I was talking about my bias being hot and bothered, but if you're staring down DJ Moore, DK Metcalf, which way are you two going in that situation? Because I went DJ Moore, obviously, but which way would you two go between Moore and DK?
I am pretty sure I'm going to triple check my rankings. But I have DK ranked slightly ahead of DJ Moore. Okay, I have DK a few spots ahead of DJ Moore. That being said, I recently made tweaks to the Chicago Bears offense and not to the Seattle Seahawks offense. And I think as much as I love DK Metcalf, I'm not going to be surprised if I bring him down in the next week and have him and DJ Moore neck and neck. I am personally leaning DK Metcalf, only because I just think that the competition in Chicago is legitimate as much as, people are starting to write off Keenan Allen and they're not writing off Rome Odunze. They're actually coming up quite a bit on Rome Odunze. I'm going to choose to invest in the offense that I think is going to have the more explosive pass attack. And that's my really only tiebreaker there, because you're right. DJ Moore is a riser in my rankings currently, but I still think if I'm, staring down the two, I'm going to lean DK Metcalf. But like, if somebody says, take DJ Moore, have you seen preseason? Have you seen Caleb Williams? Like, I'm not questioning anybody for taking DJ Moore ahead of DK Metcalf. I'm just more bullish on the Seahawks than I think most people are.
Yeah, and I think for me, it's a question about Caleb Williams, right? Like, he has made some spectacular throws. It's just a matter of like, can he string those together in the regular season, right? And like, there's all the historical data out there that says that like rookie quarterbacks and the wide receivers, they tend to struggle at the beginning half of the year, and then they figure it out about halfway through, and then they finish strong at the end of the season. So I think like if you believe in Caleb kind of hitting, starting hot, staying hot through the year, I don't mind DJ Moore. Again, my preference is DK Metcalf, but you best believe that like if there are some early season struggles for the Chicago Bears, that I will be trying to do whatever I can to go get a Rome Odunze, go get a DJ Moore, because I think the second half bounce back for those guys is going to be pretty stellar.
Yeah, and that's why Rome Odunze is probably one of my favorite targets in drafts right now. Is that second half of the season I think could be massive for him and DJ Moore. Keenan Allen is the one who I'm just like 100% OUT on this year. James Cook, Devonta Smith, CJ Stroud went after Ty's pick of DK Metcalf. I really don't want to get cute here. I think there is a massive, maybe not massive, there's definitely a tier break in wide receivers here at this point, but Malik Neighbors is still on the board, and Daniel Jones might legitimately be the worst starting quarterback in the league, but this is purely a bet on talent. Oh my gosh.
What a
That was a
happy birthday.
brutal. That was a brutal turn. Holy crap. Because I was hoping I could get one of Mixon, Kamara, or Walker to fall to me. I want look, hey, as much as I'm going anchor RB with Christian McCaffrey, and as much as I said I'm not as concerned about the calf, I'm not gonna lie, looking at one of those guys in the 5th round, just add a little bit of stability to my running back position, I don't hate. But this makes an easy pivot. I'm gonna go back to Malik Neighbors for a second. Malik Neighbors and Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones might be the worst quarterback in the league. Terrible pick. That red zone pick was not even red zone. That pick 6 that he threw in preseason was just disastrous. And Malik Neighbors is the better dynasty investment than he is the redraft asset this year. But I also think in any other class, he's the wide receiver 1. And he was rivaling Marvin Harrison Jr. for the wide receiver 1 in this class. Like at some point, I have to just look at the talents and say, this dude is going to be special in the league. And it might not lead to top 15 production this year, but getting Malik Neighbors in the late 4th when Marvin Harrison is currently going at the 1-2 turn, like I'm perfectly fine with that investment of Malik Neighbors there, especially when I'm desperate for wide receivers at this range after going Nico and Jalen Waddle. But Mark Andrews slid back to me in the 5th, so I'm going Mark Andrews there. I'll go ahead and lock down my elite tight end. I'm not going to get cute with this pick. I'm not going to reach down and find another wide receiver. I'm going to go ahead and just get my elite tight end and be happy with that pick, with that value that he slid to me. So Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper, Dalton Kincaid off the board next. Ty, if you would have gotten Dalton Kincaid here, then we really might have had to stop the count. But alas, one pick before you. So you've got 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers thus far, Amon-Ra, Travis Etienne, Pacheco, DK Metcalf. What's the move?
There are some really nice tight ends available. I'm looking at Kyle Pitts, looking at George Kittle. The wide receivers, I think they'll see Tank Dell there, and they will say that Tank Dell is the smash pick here. He's not for me. It's definitely not Zay Flowers, who's also right there. T. Higgins is there, but golly, guys, I can't pass up Anthony Richardson here.
That's your guy.
He for 5th, we've talked about how these quarterbacks are going slightly later than they have in the past. Same with these tight ends and stuff. For a guy like Anthony Richardson, who has quarterback 1 overall upside this year, who has a very good chance of outscoring guys like CJ Stroud, like Patrick Mahomes, even Lamar Jackson, if things play out in a not so favorable way in Baltimore, like to get that in the 5th round, there is no one that can offer his kind of upside. Yeah, like we like Kyle Pitts. George Kittle can give you some serious week-to-week ceilings. Anthony Richardson though has a in that range.
Yeah, and Shane Steichen as his head coach. Like Shane Steichen knows ball. Shane Steichen is a phenomenal head coach. He is going to make sure Anthony Richardson is as productive as possible. And I think people are going to say, well, he's injury prone. He's going to get hurt. I just a guy with as big as his size, with how big he is, I just think that's such a silly statement. It was an unfortunate season. But if Anthony Richardson comes back and has a fully healthy year under Shane Steichen this year, like you said, Ty, we're looking at an overall quarterback 1. Kyle Pitts, Tank Dell, T. Higgins followed afterwards. Cameron, back to you. Jonathan Taylor, Puka Nacua, DJ Moore, Trey McBride. Where are you looking to go?
Well, I'm going to be honest. Seeing that George Kittle's still here is kind of a bummer because it makes me wish I would have gone DK Metcalf with my last pick. But hindsight's 2020, and I didn't want to risk it, so I'm not too bummed about it. I'm going to take probably your guys' favorite player on the board left in Aaron Jones here as my running back 2. After our discussion last week, that was
couldn't differ more.
Yes. But yeah, I still believe in Aaron Jones. I think as my running back too, I still like his upside in this Minnesota offense. Someone's got to run the ball. I thought he was efficient last year. So I'm still in on Aaron Jones despite you two hating on your hometown team. So I mean, it is what it is, I guess.
Oh,
Uh,
Mr. Holier than thou of a football fan. All
That's
righty.
just what I'm saying. I stand for my guys. After Aaron Jones, I'll do the transition for you, Lucas. After Aaron Jones goes George Kittle and say Flowers, and comes back to me. Do we have a break coming up soon, or?
It ain't right now. Make your pick.
Because I'm not loving it here. I'm gonna try something new.
Hey, Kyler.
Because I think every single time that this happens here, I reach down for my guy. I'm not going to. It's usually the Kyler Murray pick right now. I'm gonna try something new because I don't want every one of my mock draft teams to have Kyler Murray on it. So instead, I'm gonna go Rashee Rice. And take him there because I knew that both of you were looking at Rashee Rice, and that makes me very happy to have him as my wide receiver 3. And your reactions say it all. So I mean, this feels like a birthday present to me, which, to be fair, my Facebook was screwed up today and had my birthday listed as today as well. And I had got multiple birthday messages that I had to tell people it's not actually my birthday today. So
did you forward them to my Facebook page instead?
No, I just said, just save these for 6 months from now, and then you can send them back to me. But yeah, I feel really good about that pick now. So thank you, you two. That made me like the happiest I've been in a long time seeing that reaction.
So I should have known Ty would have been looking at Rashee Rice here too, as he's only got Amon-Ra, St. Brown, and DK Metcalf. I should have known you would have been looking at a Rashee Rice here. As James Conner, Ramondre Stevenson, and Joe Burrow followed. So Ty, you were looking at Rashee Rice. Which wide receiver are you looking at now?
We mentioned Roma Dunze. He's sitting right there, but the problem is with the build that I have for him going in, what is this, the 6th round? I'm in a pretty tough spot then if I were to take him here, because then I need someone that can play, in the early part of the season while Rome could be figuring things out in Chicago and stuff. So as much as we like the second half upside with Roma Dunze, it's just not the right pick here. And so now I'm just kind of looking at like Chris Godwin, who's a little bit down the board, but he's still within a reasonable range. Christian Kirk is right there, but I'm ultimately going to go with Scary Terry here. Not the sexiest pick in the world, but the fact is that he is getting he now has his best quarterback that he's had in Washington in a while. I do believe that outside of Terry, there really is like no one else in this offense. Like we thought like Jahan Dotson could be a piece, but then Dan Quinn himself said like, yeah, that wide receiver 2 spot in the offense is kind of up for grabs. So that makes me believe even more that like Terry really is going to be that guy this year in this Washington offense.
I hate it here.
How's your birthday?
And no, we cannot go to break.
Birthday's around here. That's too bad. We are totally transitioning to break right now. Today's podcast episode is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy, where it is best ball summer. There are 5 core best ball tournaments to play in with over $20 million up for grabs this summer. You can even take a crack at winning the top prize of $1.5 million in their infamous Best Ball Mania 5 contest. To enter, head to UnderdogFantasy.com or download the app and use the code FELLAS to get a first deposit bonus up to $250 and our 2024 draft guide for free. Again, head to UnderdogFantasy.com or download the app and use code FELLAS to sign up. Must be 18 plus and present in the state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-522-4700 or visit npcgambling.org. We are back. I gained zero clarity during that 40-second break. Literally none. Which stinks. Because DeAndre Swift, David Montgomery, and Najee Harris all went in the next 3 picks. I wanted one of them. I didn't care who. As much as I'm out on DeAndre Swift, I would have happily taken him instead of reaching way down the board for another running back. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to go ahead. I'm just going to grab my quarterback because I know
Bully QB.
after the seventh double quarterback, the next 2 rounds. Here's the thing though. After my 7th round pick, any of Dak Prescott, Jordan Love, Kyler Murray, they are not making it back to me. Okay. That is the one thing you have to know when you're drafting early in these drafts. If you wait for a quarterback after the 7th round, you're going to be looking at a Brock Purdy, a Tua Tagovailoa, a Jared Goff, a Caleb Williams. And as good as those guys might be this year, none of them offer me the same upside that Kyler Murray does. So honestly, there's a variety of different running backs or wide receivers I can be happy with after this pick. If I get sniped on Kyler Murray, I am just going to be upset. So I'm going to go ahead and take Kyler Murray at the 6'10", make sure I get my guy. As Christian Kirk, Jaden Reed, and holy smokes, how far of a reach is that on Brock Purdy?
It's about 2 rounds.
I had a Dak Prescott and Jordan Love. Evan Ingram off the board next, which this is fine by me. I can't wait much longer on another running back because the running backs that are going to come back to me next round are going to be trash. I'm going to take my next highest ranked running back. It is Raheem Mostert. You can laugh at me for taking Jalen Waddle and Raheem Mostert on the same team, but shut up, Cameron.
You told me I could.
You opened the door.
I walked right into that one. Look, you can laugh at me for having the 2 on the same team, but the reality is you look at the split in snaps from the preseason. Raheem Mostert saw 81 of the rush attempts in their second preseason game compared to Devon Achane. So I'm kind of like, you know what? If Raheem Mostert can even hit double-digit touchdowns again this year, he is totally going to pay off this 7th round price tag that we currently have on him. It just feels like people think he's not going to score 15 plus touchdowns again this year, which I would agree with them. But because of that, we don't want him, even though he's on a better offense than the Pittsburgh Steelers, on a better offense than the Chicago Bears, on a better offense than the New England Patriots, on a better offense than the Arizona Cardinals, on a better offense than the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, I'm just naming the teams of the guys who went ahead of him. So at some point we have to look at it and say, yeah, they might not be ahead in so many games, but I do think this team is going to be around the goal line plenty, especially if they're going to have to throw to keep in games. If they get anywhere inside of the 10-yard line, it's Raheem Mostert scoring these touchdowns, if I had to guess this year. Xavier Worthy and Roma Dunze followed at the wide receiver position, and then Dak Prescott went in the middle of the 8th round. So, Ty, it's to you now. You went Terry McLaurin last round to add another wide receiver. Where are you looking to go?
We're going to go with one more receiver here.
Mm-hmm.
This one's is actually kind of a tough one for me because this is between Chris Godwin and Calvin Ridley. Now, with Ridley, you know that he is more than likely going to be the number 1 guy in that Tennessee offense, just with DeAndre Hopkins' status for at least like the first week or 2 in the season, just kind of being up in the air versus Chris Godwin, where you know that he's going to be on the field, but he's not the number 1 guy. But there's the hype of him going back to the slot a little bit more this year, and that's where he's the most effective. And ultimately, you know, we don't put too much stock into like bye weeks are, you don't, obviously you're not going to draft every single guy with a week 5 bye. But the thing is, I do have a guy with a week 5 bye. Calvin Ridley is on a week 5 bye. That's where, or I guess that's why I'm going to go Chris Godwin, just because then I'm also then kind of scrambling. Sorry, Cam, you can't have all the nice things here.
I didn't want God. I wanted Ridley. God, I was so excited after
I
you
know.
passed.
No, I know you wanted Ridley because you've taken him in every mock draft as well. But that is kind of the thought process that I have. If I took Ridley, I'm then scrambling for another wide receiver to play when week 5 comes around. And I'd rather not have to try to stream that because by the end of drafts, the odds of finding a nice streamable wide receiver are pretty slim. So going Ridley there and just hoping that he can, you know, play more in the slot this year, because if he does, he's a great value here.
Yeah, Chris Godwin, middle of the 7th, I'm fine with. I think I would lean Calvin Ridley personally, just because when your 32-year-old counterpart is dealing with a knee sprain going into the season, I highly doubt DeAndre Hopkins is going to be 100% by the start of the season. So to me, that gives Ridley the edge there, but you can go Godwin. I do think he's probably going to be a stable piece back in the slot this year for Baker Mayfield. Zamir White, then Calvin Ridley went, followed by Jordan Addison. So Cameron, to you now, you were hoping a Calvin Ridley slide would fall to you here, but it did not. Are you still looking at wide receiver then?
Yeah, I am, and I need to grab my quarterback too, and I'm really upset because then I wanted Jordan Addison because I think we were kind of feeling the similar effects to Rashee Rice, where everyone's worried about the suspension that's coming. That's probably not going to come this year. Obviously, Addison has Sam Darnold and not Patrick Mahomes, so that makes the slide happen, a little bit more too. But I'm gonna do something I don't normally do. Usually, I try to game the board a little, but I would be absolutely crushed if this sleeper bot just got nuts on us and took a second quarterback here. So I'm gonna grab Jordan Love, and just take Jordan Love. Yeah, because I didn't think the sleeper bot was gonna take any of the wide receivers I was interested in as well. And frankly, I haven't decided who I want as my wide receiver 4 yet. So that was also part of the reason. Is hopefully it gave me a little bit of chance to stall and
You
figure out.
don't know?
Well,
You
okay.
you
Okay,
you
okay.
liar. You
Okay.
are a liar and a fraud.
Let me explain. All right. So Tony Pollard and Hollywood Brown went. And my issue is, yes, I want Deontay, but as my wide receiver 4 here, I also kind of want a guy with upside. And we've been talking about him. Brian Thomas Jr. is right there. And oh my goodness, if that dude hits, it would be amazing. But I'm gonna take Deontay because on tomorrow's episode I would be a fraud if I did not. So I will take Deontay Johnson. I didn't even hear that stuff. You know what's going on right now? The drops are coming out of my computer and not in my earbuds, so I can't actually tell what the drops are. So it's even worse because I know you're making fun of me, but I don't know what it is. It's like an inside joke, and I'm just sitting here like, "What's going on? This is brutal."
What's going on? You got called a chicken twice.
That's right.
No, but
It
yeah,
is
you're 100% right. You get called a fraud tomorrow. You wouldn't hear the end of it on that episode. There's a little sneak peek. Try and guess the theme for tomorrow's episode by guessing that Cameron will be called a fraud for not taking Deontay Johnson in today's draft. Keon Coleman, Brock Bowers, Javonte Williams both follow. Tie back to you. You've got 4 wide receivers here. You're still looking at a tight end, and I gotta believe this is your guy, Jake Ferguson, coming here.
I mean, I might as well just kind of keep with the theme of tomorrow's episode, but foreshadowing. Dude, Luke, is this this is not back. No, it is back to back almost. By the way, my pick was Jake.
JSN. I just wanted JSN.
I know
now
you did.
You have an excuse to take Brian Thomas.
True. Yes, you do. It is right there.
I am not going to take. I am not going to take Brian Thomas here. I am going to take a wide receiver here, mostly because golly, if I don't get one of these running backs pushed to me, like I'm just going to call it quits, and I'm done. I'm not. I'll let the rest of my team be auto drafted, and you two can close out the episode. I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I got sniped on Christian Watson here, who I just think has the most upside in this Green Bay Packers offense. As Caleb Williams, Zach Moss, DeAndre Hopkins, and Ladd McConkey go next. I am extremely pleased with how this turned out. I'm going to go ahead and take Jonathan Brooks as my running back 3. Again, this is like Lucas. All your running backs are injured / could be injured. Yeah, you know what though? That's kind of the hand I've been dealt in this draft. And at this point, I'm just going to figure it out at the running back position. This draft has not fallen favorably to me. I'm just shooting for upside. This is purely the draft of upside. That's what it feels like because it's Chris McCaffrey who should be the overall running back 1. Nico Collins is a pure upside pick this year. Jalen Waddle. I'm betting on upside in a bounce back season. I'm betting on Malik Neighbors in a high upside season just based on his talent. Raheem Mostert, high upside. Christian Watson, high upside. Jonathan Brooks, when he comes back, I think he'll be the featured back, even though it might not be till week 4. Jalen Warren dealing with a hamstring injury. He's the one that I'm scared of now. Especially, if Najee Harris comes out as the guy and looks great in Arthur Smith's offense. I'm not saying I'm writing off Jalen Warren forever, but man, that hamstring injury is starting to worry me a little bit. And I was considering him for tomorrow's episode, not to spoil the theme for the listeners. Jury's still out. I'm just nervous enough with this new hamstring injury that his timeline for week 1 is TBD at this point. It's not a guarantee he'll be there. So that's why I went Jonathan Brooks there. back half of the season, I actually think he could end up being the better play than Jalen Warren. So that's my rationale for Jonathan Brooks there. The people are going to hate it, which is fine, but I'll figure out a way how to land this point eventually. Dallas Goedert, Jalen Warren, Jared Goff off the board next. Tyler, to you, still only looking at 2 running backs here, but I mean, considering it's Travis Etienne and Isaiah Pacheco, you really haven't had to worry about it up to this point.
No, and I do want to take the guy that Cam is just going to be miserable with me taking. I'm going to go with Brian Thomas Jr. Even though Cam knew he wasn't going to get him on his pick, and all the running backs that he wanted off the board.
Oh man!
Oh
man! What a run of running backs! Austin Eckler, Devin Singletary, and Tyjae Spears all go next. That's a brutal run. Not only does Brian Thomas Jr. not take a tumble back to you, but you get sniped on the 3 running backs that you're potentially looking at.
That's brutal. I'll let Ty talk because we've cut him off like the last 3 times because Ty this whole draft has not had to think. It's just, oh, look, he fell in my lap again. Okay. Oh, and then look, there goes Lucas getting sniped. Oh, he fell in my lap again. Oh, Cameron gets sniped. Oh, you don't need to think. This is brutal. So I'll let you talk about Brian Thomas because somebody should at this point.
Yes.
What if Brian Thomas Jr. hits this year? We've mentioned that a couple times now. What if he hits? What if he is the number 1 guy in this offense by the end of the year? That is in the range of outcomes. And yeah, like I do have Travis Etienne. So is there a chance, like the odds of me having like the 2 best playmakers on this Jacksonville offense, pretty slim. But again, when I have guys like Chris Godwin and Terry McLaurin, where I know what I'm getting with those guys, it isn't going to be the highest of floors, but there is still a relative floor there. Getting a guy like Brian Thomas Jr., I can just benefit from whatever, big weeks I can get out of Brian Thomas. And if he, continues to develop and he does become an alpha in the second half of the season, I have 5 really good wide receivers then.
I'm surprised you didn't start with what if Brian Thomas Jr. is just the best wide receiver on the Jaguars, period.
That too.
What if I think by the end of the season, we could be talking about him being a better NFL wide receiver than Christian Kirk. Is he the better NFL wide receiver than Christian Kirk right now?
Ooh. I mean,
I think he's unproven, so I'm not ready to go that far. But
I think in terms of being a downfield guy, speed, like certain traits he's gotten certain better traits than Christian Kirk. So maybe he does kind of hit the ground running, and maybe we are kind of taking for granted, right? Just because he didn't have that big of a college profile. That again, what if he does just kind of hit the ground running and he does become the number 1 guy within the first 6 weeks of the season?
I think by the end of the season, we could totally be talking about him as the best wide receiver on the Jaguars. Cameron, were you going to chime in with something?
Yeah, I mean, Calvin Ridley was wide receiver 18 last year. Like, we can't say it's out of the realm of outcomes that he just replaces Ridley 1-for-1. I'm not saying he's going to, but and it's not like Ridley had an outstanding season last year, right? Ridley, everyone was like, So I mean, that's definitely within the range of outcomes for him. I really wanted Tyjae Spears. That was really like who I thought I was going to get there. Thought he was going to get sniped by 1 pick because the running backs now are brutal. And if I've learned anything about these drafts is the people like running backs. And so they're going to hate my team because
look at him pandering to the people.
These next, I'm not even pandering. I'm just telling the truth. Like, they're going to hate it. Like, I'm not even going to try to convince them. It is the best team because I got, a good start, but I just think they're not going to love it. But I'm going to go Brian Robinson here and just go volume in an offense where I think Cliff Kingsbury is going to run the ball near the red zone. Hope for touchdowns. And then because I know the people really hate Ezekiel Elliott. I know they do. Like that, they do not hide that one. Like we're a little higher on Zeke, and we've come back down to earth a little bit on him. So I'm not going to go him. I'm going to go a guy who's probably similar to him, just on a different team. So I'm going to go Gus Edwards, and just take 2 bruisers. Not much PPR upside, but hope for touchdowns with both of them.
I don't mind Gus Edwards there. Kamani Vidal had a nice second little preseason game, but I think it's becoming more and more clear that Gus Edwards is the guy, and it's who's going to filter in on 3rd down. Is it J.K. Dobbins or is it going to be Kamani Vidal? and we just don't know. So I'm perfectly fine with the Gus Edwards pick there, especially in an offense that we know wants to run the football nonstop for sure. Tua Tagovailoa, Cortland Sutton, Jameson Williams off the board next. So Tyler, to you, I got to imagine your next pick is going to be running back.
Yeah, we've benefited from the double running back start in the first 3 rounds, and it's time to kind of build some depth there. I'm going to go with Chase Brown here. I know that the preseason action hasn't been that great so far this year, but I still think that Chase Brown can be on the field.
Fine, everything's fine. Fine.
You didn't fall out of your chair, so I knew things were fine. But
happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday, dear Lucas, happy birthday to you. Poor audio people have no idea what's going on. They're just missing the chaos.
You can finish up, Ty.
Subscribe to the YouTube channel.
Yes, subscribe. But so with Chase Brown, what if he's on the field for 3rd downs? What if he is going to get more pass catching opportunities and stuff? I'm not asking a lot of the guy because I know who my 2 running backs are. But if Chase Brown can make a role for himself being the pass catching back or option between him and Zach Moss, I'll take whatever scoring he gets from that phase of the game. So for the running back 3 as a depth piece, I do not mind it.
You want to know what sucks about that pick too? The people are going to love that pick. Like, not only do you have very clearly the best team right now, Tyler, the people are just going to love that pick. I can't even salvage this team. Like, this team is done. I'm going to take Curtis Samuel. I'm just going to wrap out my wide receivers because I don't want to think about drafting another wide receiver in the later rounds. And again, the fact that I can draft the wide receiver 1 for Josh Allen in the 10th round just seems silly to me. So I'm going to go ahead. It's not a fun pick. It's not a sexy pick. But again, Curtis Samuel, I'm going to make the pick and forget about it. And for my next pick, I'm debating going 2 different ways here. I think the way I'm going to go is I am going to go and take Chuba Hubbard and just shore up the 2 Carolina running backs there, because if Jonathan Brooks isn't ready in the first 3-4 weeks, Chuba Hubbard, is going to be the guy for the first 4 weeks. So I can at least plug him in with Dave Canales saying, look, I'm going to show you how stubborn I can be running the ball. Even if it's not Jonathan Brooks, who I think is the better running back than Chuba Hubbard, it's going to be Chuba Hubbard for at least 4 weeks. So at this point, I got nothing to lose at running backs when it's a bunch of handcuffs and upside picks. I may as well just take the production, considering my running back 2 is Raheem Mostert. My running back 3 is Jonathan Brooks. Jerome Ford, Blake Corum, Jacoby Myers. Go afterwards. We can put a bow on this quickly here, fellas. So Ty, to you, I got to imagine it's another running back pick here.
Yep, and it's a guy that I want to change it up, but I just can't at this late of drafts. Rico Dowdle. What if he is the 1A to Zeke's 1B this year in a Dallas Cowboys offense that we are projecting to be one of the highest scoring units in the league? From a running back 4, it's too easy of a pick at that point.
Yeah, he is the easier pick or the better pick right now than Ezekiel Elliott. They're inching closer and closer in ADP, but Rico Dowdle is very clearly the better pick than Zeke Elliott, especially with camp hype coming out of camp as well. Pat Freiermuth, Trevor Lawrence, A.D. Mitchell follow. Cameron, to you now. How are you going to land the plane?
Well, I thought it was with Rico Dowdle, but now I don't know.
Get sniped, boy. Get sniped.
So
again,
I'm gonna go with wow. I want to say upside, but it's not really. There's no one at the upside left. Josh Palmer, and just hope he's the best wide receiver on that team. Upside was the wrong word. After Palmer went Judy and Khalil Shakir, and I feel like I need another running back, but man, it's gross. So, well, if I'm going to take a running back, I might as well make sure Ty can't get his guy. So I'll go with Ty Chandler here. And just a little handcuff for Aaron Jones, but also I think he has standalone value at the running back position.
You shouldn't have done that. You want to know why? Because I know exactly who Ty's going to take here, and it's going to be another snipe of who I was targeting with my last pick. So go ahead, Ty. You can go ahead and snipe me now after Luke Musgrave, Zach Charbonnet, and Xavier Legette go off the board. Go ahead. You can do it. Just
You
do
want
it.
J.K. Dobbins?
No, he wants
No,
for
see, now you're
Sheed.
just playing with me. Now you're just playing with me.
He wants for Sheed.
No, I'm going with Brandon Cooks here. See, I feel like Brandon Cooks is actually like the perfect late round target to have this year, because with the contract dispute going on between CeeDee Lamb and the Cowboys, what if CeeDee Lamb does not suit up for the first 3 weeks of the season or something until a deal is struck between the two parties? If that happens, Brandon Cooks is the wide receiver 1 on this Dallas Cowboys team, right? And yes, I now realize that 3 of my last 5 picks have been Dallas Cowboys. Maybe not the smartest strategy, but I just want to present the case for Brandon Cooks to be, what if you can get wide receiver 1 utilization out of Brandon Cooks for 4 weeks at the beginning of the season? And even if CeeDee Lamb then agrees to a contract before the beginning of the season, you roster him for the first week, you drop Brandon Cooks, and you just try to go pick up the next Kyron Williams on waivers if there is one like him this year, right? Like, you have nothing to lose with Brandon Cooks, but you can get an early season boost if things play out in favor of Brandon Cooks.
J.K. Dobbins did go next, followed by Kirk Cousins, Mike Williams. I'm going to take Jaleel McLaughlin here. He's probably going to end up being my first running back dropped. If once we get a breakout in week 1 from a Ray Davis or whoever it may be, right? I don't know who's going to be week 1, but he's going to be my first player dropped. But what if Sean McVay actually does just flat out prefer Jaleel McLaughlin over Javonte Williams at some point this year, and I have to keep Jaleel McLaughlin on my team based on how my running backs are. I just want shots at guys who have paths to eventually take over touches at some point during the year. And it's probably going to be clear touches for Jaleel McLaughlin if Javonte Williams does not end up panning out for this team. Let's do a quick recap of this draft, fellas, and we can speed through it quick because we all know Tyler's team is the best. As one who has won the majority of these mock drafts, I'm just going to say it. My team is not the best. But I started with Christian McCaffrey, Nico Collins, Jalen Waddle, Malik Neighbors, then went 2 1Z positions in Mark Andrews and Kyler Murray, then went Raheem Mostert, Christian Watson, Jonathan Brooks, Curtis Samuel, Chuba Hubbard, Jaleel McLaughlin to wrap out this draft. Not my best draft. Pretty unfortunate, actually.
Since it's your birthday, I'll let you slide by with that little comment you had there, but winning the most of them. I don't know about that. I feel like that's a self-reported stat. That's all I'm going to say.
Don't stop the count for that one. You can go check the count on that one. I'm just spitting facts. Tyler, you can go ahead and tell everybody why your team is the best, because it is.
Started off with Amon-Ra St. Brown in the first, and went back-to-back running back with Travis Etienne and my guy this year, Isaiah Pacheco, in the 3rd round. That was a gift. DK Metcalf in the 4th round, which is also a gift. Then I got Anthony Richardson in the 5th, and then went 4 straight pass catchers with Terry McLaurin, Chris Godwin, grabbed my tight end and Jake Ferguson, and then Brian Thomas Jr. in the 9th round, and finished things up with Chase Brown and Rico Dowdle for some depth at running back in Brandon Cooks.
Cameron, you took 2nd place. I'm humbly taking last chair. You can go ahead and tell everybody your team. We'll still put this up for poll, but go ahead. You can share your team first.
It's a long season, all right? We play it out for a reason. A lot of things can happen here, and so I'm not ready to declare him a winner. But I went Jonathan Taylor, Puka Nacua, DJ Moore, and Trey McBride in the first 4 rounds. Then Aaron Jones, Rashee Rice, Jordan Love, and Deontay Johnson. Even though I hesitated on that pick, I am happy with that one. Then finished up with a couple running backs in Brad Robinson, Gus Edwards, a pass catcher in Josh Palmer, and then a handcuff in Ty Chandler to finish it off.
We'll go ahead and we'll put these up on the socials. We'll let you all vote for Ty's team. And now that I'm saying that so much, I'm just hoping it's reversing like the odds that people actually think Ty's team is the best, and that Cam and I get some more pity votes or something like that. Because that's how it's going to have to work to prevent this from being yet another blowout. Look, we'll post these on the socials. We'll let you all decide whether you agree with my sentiments or not. And make sure you find those on the socials as well. We're at FFLs on Twitter, DFFLs on Instagram, Fantasy Football Fellas on Facebook and TikTok. You can follow us at our Twitter accounts as well. I am at Lucas Wenzel. You can see it right on the screen if you're over on YouTube, at CamLawFFF and at Tyler_Plath. We will be back tomorrow with a very special episode for you all. This is a very special episode. I don't think the
dare
people
I
are quite
say-
ready for what we have in store.
Yeah, I was gonna say, dare I say, the episode that like people need to tune in for, the one every year.
Yes, this is the episode you need to tune in for. And that's not like overstating the show. It is the one that we are the most excited about almost every single year. And I'm not going to give you much more than that. So again, make sure you subscribe, turn on those notifications over on YouTube as well. We are posting 3 videos a week all throughout the regular season. And right now as well, if you want to subscribe to our podcast feed as well, you want to listen to us while you're driving, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast from. Just search the Fantasy Football Fellas over there. We'll see you all next time. Thanks for tuning in. Stay safe, stay healthy. Deuces.
Deuces.
Deuces.